Hey guys, and welcome to the most requested video I've had to this date. It's finally here. So a while ago when I first started this channel and before when I had Instagram, I painted this guy up. I called it Lost Chapter. I didn't really, it was just a fun painting, like one night when I just didn't want to stick to any sort of scheme or anything. I just wanted to have some fun with colours, experiment with them. Didn't really think much of it. Put a picture online, a little short video, and it went crazy. So yeah, it's strange how sometimes something that you don't think will go crazy does go crazy, and the times that you spending hours on a miniature, nobody's really bothered. But hey ho, that's just the world. So yeah, thought I'd do it. Thought I'd put it on this video. So before we get into it, I just want to say again a massive thank you to everyone who's a follower and supporter of this channel. It really means so much to me how fast it's grown. I know a lot of you reached out on my last video when I did explain that I might be doing a members only videos. So if you are still interested in that, it's still something I am looking at setting up. And don't forget already, if you're not, please remember to hit that subscribe button and like this video. It really does help me push this channel a bit more and get my videos out. So yeah, colour scheme. Let's get into the Lost Chapter. So we're going to be using one of the Veteran Guard, I can't remember the name exactly, for this, as it's it's got a bit of uniqueness and there's ways that we can paint it, and we're going to go for that colour scheme. So the paints, there's two paints that we need. It is quite simple. They are Tamiya paints, and it is XF2 and XF50, which is field blue. So these are the two main colours. That's all you need to be able to achieve the look for what we're going for. Now I do recommend, obviously with Tamiya paints, to get some X20A thinner. It's a specialised thinner designed for their paints. I know some of them you can get away with normal thinner, but it's it's cheap enough. It's only, I think this was £6, 9p. I don't really get the 9p from. But yeah, so this is all that you need. And the beautiful thing about Tamiya paints, if you've never used them, they are so smooth, and they go on unbelievable. And you can build them up in layers, like really slowly build them up. So I could put some of this on, put another layer on top, and it'd look like an extra highlight. So that's the beauty. So what we're going to do is start with this. Slowly going to be adding some white and white and white until we get that final highlight that we want to achieve. So for the thinning ratio, I normally thin this maybe 3 drops of thinner to every drop of Tamiya paint. And like I said, that's going to give us a nice bit of control to be able to build that up. Obviously, I'm not doing the measurement exact on this. It's just, this again just comes down to experience when it comes to building up, how thin you want. I've just sort of got used to how, oops, sorry about that. I've just sort of got used to how much to add into the thinner. It's just something that comes with experience, and you can sort of mix them in the pot. But this is a 0.4 needle and nozzle, spraying at about 25 psi. Now all we're going to do is work our way round the armour and just build up a nice opaque-ish layer. It doesn't have to be perfect. I do tend to leave a little bit in the shadows. So we're just going to build this up to a semi-opaque layer. I tend not to, if I want a bit more shadow in there, I tend to not give it as many coats, but the rest of it I want it to be quite opaque. But like really dark shadow areas, like underneath, I'm just going to only put a little bit into there, just maybe one thin layer. But yeah, if you've ever used Tamiya paints, these are my favourite paints. I wish all paints were like this. I'm not sure what they're like for hand brushing. I've never really used them for hand brushing, should I say. So I might have over thinned this a little bit, but that's not a problem. I'm just going to slowly work my way around it. The beauty of Tamiya paints is you get that control of how much you want to build it up. So this is it now with, I think this is 2 to 3 layers built up to the colour that it is. I've left little bits at shadow just so it's tinted slightly in this colour. And now I'm going to do this drop by drop, so I'm maybe going to add a little bit what's left in here, because like again I did over thin it slightly, so I can get away with just putting the white straight into that. I'm just going to add like one little tipful, or maybe one drop in that case, or one and a bit, depending on how much you've got left. But we're only building this up slowly. You don't want to go mad and add too much white, but again, don't worry if you think you overdo it in palette. They are Tamiya paints, you can slowly build them back up. And if you need to go back down, just put your original colour back in. As Games Workshop would say, we can fix this later. Now for the second coat, we're just going to do this as a top down, like a zenithal prime. That's what we sort of want to be achieving now. So I'm going to be aiming it this way and just using a top down motion. Let's see if we can get that colour coming through. Always test your sprays beforehand. Don't want to be splattering some more. But again, there ain't a massive difference at this stage. But again, we're just building up those shadows, moving up to those mid-tones at this stage on that zenithal. And next time I'm going to be adding a little bit more thinner and a little bit more white. Start to see now, it looks a little bit more on camera, but in real life it's not that bright. And we're going to do a white helmet on this guy, but I think for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. I might actually do a competition for this boy. Like I called it Lost Chapter. Like I said, that one I never had a name or anything like that for it. So if anyone has got a chapter name suggestion, let me know in the comment section below, and I'm going to do a competition to probably get 6-month free membership to some exclusive videos. So again, for this layer, I have added a little bit more white than I normally would. This is just because I've got a slight little bit more control over it, and again, with those Tamiya paints being so smooth, you can build them up. But obviously at this stage it is looking a little bit brighter than the original model, which is where we want to be aiming a little bit, just because we are going to dull that back down a little bit later on. But on my screen it looks a lot brighter than what it actually is in real life. It's more attuned to the original. But like obviously I added a little bit more white in mine. I've got that control. But I would recommend, if you've never done this, just build it up slowly. Keep adding those little drops of white, and yeah, it's a little bit of a pain adding up. It might take a little bit more time, but trust me, those end results are going to be so much better. Now this is the final highlight, what I'm going to add now. This is just going to be such a tight little highlight. It's more on the grey white side, and this is just going to be for the shoulder blades and places that are really going to catch that light. So we need to be extra tight and extra careful. And what I'm going to do is get a little bit closer to it and just really carefully pop that in. So that concludes our airbrushing. For now, as you can see, it looks a little bit more overexposed on this one for the time being. That's because we haven't added our enamel washers, which we'll get into a little bit later on. Now the next stage, there is going to be a little bit of a time jump, just because all I'm going to do at this stage is the blackout stage. That means just going around the miniature and blacking out all those overspray areas. As you can see on this one, for the trim on the shoulder, I used black, so I really think, you know, whatever colour you use, black goes really well with it. On this one, I might only do one of them black and put one of them more in like the gold, bronzy colour like this, just to spice things up a little bit so you can see what I actually do with the gold, just to even it all out a little bit. But I'm quite happy with these two. They look like they actually, you know, go together in a chapter. What should we call them? So here we are after the time jump. So all I've done so far is just base coat some colours. Obviously I've gone round and stuck some transfers on. When I got to this I didn't go for any specific transfer. I think this is a Mechanicus one and some Titanicus ones. I'm not really sure, but again it were just ones that I looked at and quite liked the look of, and did it. So for the for like his undergarment, so obviously they originally had these like tassel things. All I did was base coat it in AK Hull red, and then for like the other tabards and stuff like that was just burnt umber. I know it's called Hull red. It's not really red. It's more of like a reddish brown. But yeah, just base coat all them in that. Obviously I've done lead belcher and blacked everything out. Also what I've done at this stage is I've given the thing, once the transfers and stuff had dried, I'd given it a full matte varnish. And if you do look at this, you might not be able to tell on screen, but it does have a matte varnish on it. So you're going to do, work your way around and put the matte varnish, and this is good to go. I've not done the gold just yet because I wanted that to stay a little bit shiny. We're going to get into that now. Now I sort of did this colour recipe on a previous video, which starts off with rusty gold, and we're going to highlight it in the Metal Alchemy scale 75 as well. So base coat with this, and then once we've put our wash on, we're going to highlight it with this. So yeah, go around all your gold parts and do that in the rusty gold. The only difference to this and the video that I did is it's just the wash. That's the only difference, is the enamel wash, which we'll come to a little bit later on. It is a really nice bronzy gold colour, which I used on this one. You're just going to work your way all the way around the trim and all your little bits and put that on there. So that is pretty much it. That's everything done, dusted, and base coated out. This is when we're doing the grimdark style. This is sort of where we want to be, just everything base coated and ready to go. Now we are going to use an enamel wash. If you've never used them before, I highly recommend going out and grabbing some. All you need is some enamel wash and some mineral spirits. So I'm going to use an enamel that I've not used on this channel before, which is MIG Fuel Stains. And this is like a really nice dark brown with like a hint of black in it. And all we're going to do is go around and apply this to our miniature, dipping our... it is quite a watered down one, this one, so it doesn't require much thinning down with this, but we're just literally going to slap that all over the miniature, and then we're going to give it about 10-15 minutes to dry. But with the heat that we've had in the UK at the moment, it might not need that long. Now once you've given that about 5-10 minutes to dry, all we need is a cotton bud, and the beauty of enamels, again, you can remove and take off as much or as little as you like, but we are just going to carefully go around and start wicking away some of that enamel. What it's going to do is leave some of that in the crevices, giving us that wash appearance. But what I like to do, I like to work downwards, and sometimes I'll leave like streaks of it behind, giving it that like mucky appearance, as though some mud or whatever has gone down and streaked down the mini. Now I don't have to be too careful with it because I have added a matte varnish beforehand, so I can be a little bit more rough with it, but you still want to be careful just in case you've missed any little areas and end up chipping away at some of your paint. But if that ever does happen, I disguise it as chips, so I just literally paint straight back over it. So like these tabards what I've not painted, gotta be careful with them. Now once that's dry, you'll have something that looks a little bit like this. And if you go on to a video that I posted recently, which was how to prep for the grimdark, I think it was called, or how to prep your minis, you'll notice on here where I've actually gone in beforehand and put some little chips and stuff on the armour. If you want to learn how to do all this, I'll leave a link to that video. Some of that wash has now stayed in those crevices, like the little scratches and stuff on the bottom, giving that appearance that the armour's been through it a little bit and been chipped and stuff. But now what we're going to do is go on there and add a little bit of battle damage to the armour. I don't want to go too heavy with this, so we are going to be doing it by hand. And all you need for that is Rhinox hide. The old trusty Rhinox hide. Now I do like painting, usually what I'll do is like a mix. So I'll normally use a bit of sponge, chipping with some brushwork. But because I don't want too many on this, I'm just going to be adding them via brush. And for the person that commented on my last video saying there's no way that Space Marine armour can chip, it's just not possible, just get a grip of yourself. Don't you think I'm aware of that? But it's my mini. I like to paint them how I like to paint them, and it's just a little bit of fun. But the secret to this is I'm just literally applying small amounts to my brush. This gives us a little bit more control. I'm just adding little dots and scratches really lightly all the way around your miniature. So I'll have to explain this again because I started painting and I didn't realise I'd not hit the record button. But for this bit, because I don't want it to be like a centerpiece, we're just painting as though it were battle ready. We're not going to do it like a display piece. All I've done is got a little bit of Mournfang brown and dry brushed it over the top. And the beauty of the dry brush is it does give it a little bit of a rough texture, and the same over here. Now all we're going to do to highlight is fabric is go back to our whole red, and the middle stone colour that we used earlier for the little tab things. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comment section. They always do, saying I get my stuff wrong. I'm aware of it. I'm going to mix that 50-50 with the whole red, and we're just going to use that as a highlight. Now, because obviously you might look a little bit more at this, I'm sort of scratching it on, slash, just being a little bit messy with those highlights. I'm not going too mad with it, but what these little scratches do, it makes that fabric look a little bit more worn. And again, any other parts that you might have painted, I'm just going to give these a quick scratchy edge highlight, if you want to call it a scratch edge highlight. Then I'm going to add another slight bit of middle stone towards it, just as one last final highlight. But again, we're going to use that sort of scratchy. So the colour we're going to use to edge highlights of the armour is Celestra Grey by Games Workshop. Again, we're not going to go mental with this. Just going to get a little bit on his brush, and some of the main edges where it would naturally catch light, like here on his arm. We're not going to do it as one straight line. We're going to do it a little bit more broken up, just like this. And it just adds like an extra layer of battle damage. But what you want to do, those little, and you can actually go in like this as well and paint extra little scratches that are not too deep. But where we put our Rhinox hide earlier, where some of the chips are, I'm going to go on just underneath and add some more, just to give those a little bit more depth. So to highlight our gold, we're going to use this, which is scale colour 75, which is Peridot Alchemy. It's like a really bright, like gold colour. I love scale colour 75 paints. Given they do dry quite matte, they are like a gel slash wax based, but they are really nice to work with. They've got really good coverage. But what I like about doing the highlights of these in this style, where it's a bit more scratchy and just dotted all over, it's sort of like when you're painting non-metallic metals, it adds that little bit more depth and catches the eye as you're working your way around the miniature looking at it, and you'll see a couple more like scratches and stuff that you probably wouldn't have usually or normally seen. But if you're not right keen on this gold, check out my last video that I did, which was 3 ways to paint gold. You can take your pick from them. Now to highlight our metal, all we're going to use is Runfang steel. And we're going to go around all the little bolts and bits that we want to pop. I always do these bolts in a bit of a brighter silver, just so they stand out that little bit more. And again, don't try and paint the bolts. It don't matter if you only paint a little bit of it, but I just tend to add a slight little bit, just dot it on top, because if you don't manage to paint it all, it doesn't really matter, because it just adds as a little extra shadow. Now for the black bits of the armour, it's entirely up to you. You can do these in like a grey, highlight them in a grey, but what I'm going to do, which I like to do, is to get a bit of chipping, is do that in a metallic colour. So I'm just going around and adding chips to the black, as though some of that paint has worn away. Now for the guns and his sword, on my original one I painted the trim of this gun in red, but for this one I'm just going to keep it silver, just so I can show you what it looks like in doing metal. And if you want some more ways of painting grimdark metal, in all acrylics actually, go and check out my video 3 ways to paint grimdark metal using only acrylics, and you'll see some nice little techniques. I'm just literally just going to dry brush these rather than edge highlight it. I always think it looks a little bit more natural when you dry brush your metals. And the same on the sword. I'm not going to add any glows or power sword glows or anything like that. Again, I want to save that for a separate video, because it'll probably take up 20 minutes in itself. But the beauty of dry brushing is I just think it just looks that little bit more natural on the sword, and you get like these nice little brushed scratches and stuff. So now, to finish this off, there's only one more thing to do. Sorry, 2 more things, and that's to add some rust and paint his eyes, and then we're pretty much done. The base, you can do that however you want, but one thing I'll add to base, because I'm going to do separate videos again on bases, is pigment powders. Pigment powders really go well with miniatures, especially when you brush a little bit up onto the legs. But to get the rust, which was one of the questions I got asked on the original, how I did this shield, and that is obviously using our trusty, when you've shaked it and shaked it and shaked it, is our Dirty Downs rust. What I tend to do for this is I'll look for the chunks. So normally when you've shooken it up, it does normally set to the bottom of this, but there's a nice little chunk that's come up to the top. And you get like a nice little thick chunk, and it's just a case of dotting it. But the trick with this Dirty Downs rust is to make sure you give it a really good stir. I sometimes get like a cocktail stick or something, and just, or a toothpick or whatever, and just put it right down at bottom, and make sure you get all that gloop up. And this, you can streak with this stuff. So I do a basic streak, wait for it to to dry, and then because it's water soluble, it does dry extremely quick. Just by dipping your brush in water, you can start to clean up some of those streaks and start to drag them down a little bit. And the more like thin and water and stuff you use, you'll get like different colours from using the Dirty Downs rust. I always call it riser rust, but it's not. But I'm just going to add a little bit towards the bottom of his legs, add some streaks. But I really want to try out the new yellow rust, which I think next time I nip up to the shop, I'm going to grab some of that and give it a little test out. But once we've base coated those eyes, all we're going to do is get the contrast paint, Croxigore scales. I'm just going to apply it inside that. Now with this, because it's quite recessed in, it doesn't matter if a little bit soaks in underneath. We're not trying to make it perfect because it will make like an additional glow around the eyes. Yeah, but you can see you've got like now like a nice little glow to those eyes. So when you're done, you'll look a little something like this. I've just given it a really quick ashy base using some pigment powders, and I've obviously spread that up to the legs. So that's it. That's the colour recipe for the unknown or lost chapter. Again, if you want to comment below with some of your ideas for a name of this chapter, you can win yourself a membership. So yeah, let me know what we could call these guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please let me know in the comment section below. Leave me a like, it really helps me out grow as a channel. And until next time guys, I'll catch you in my next video.